Charania is putting out a report right now saying that Jimmy Butler prefers a trade out of Miami before this year's NBA trade deadline. We talked about it yesterday after a report from his colleague, and just from what I've seen, just a scene from the vibes as I've been able to attend some shoot-arounds and meet practices. I honestly thought we were just going to see another version of the Miami Heat saga with a player like Jimmy Butler. I just thought this was just going to be going into the offseason. Who else was going to pay him $52 million if he were truly to opt out? And I just thought this was going to play out similar to Pascal Siakam, where they go into next season or next offseason, and then he gets traded to a team that he intends to re-sign if he were to leave. And the thing is that if he were to be traded, before we get into the breakdown of this video, is that Jimmy Butler is only eligible for a 2-year extension due to the over 38 rule in the collective bargaining agreement. So before we continue this, I want to hear you guys' thoughts. I want to do note about this. Charania and his reporting specifically with Jimmy Butler has been publicly condemned by Jimmy Butler's agent, Bernie Lee. Bernie Lee's basically, if you can go on his Twitter and see what he said, but Charania is going to continue to pound the drum on Jimmy Butler wanting to be traded ahead of the February 6th deadline, and that was something that they've said since December 10th, that the Heat are willing to listen to trade offers for Butler, and that Butler wants a win-now contender. Allegedly, from reports, I believe it was Dwayne Rankins, or I believe it was Dwayne Rankins. If not, it was Gerald Bourget of the Arizona Republic. They had suggested that, or reported that, the Heat and the Suns had talked for a Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler swap that would have to require Beal waiving the no-trade clause in his contract. Now, Butler has not formally requested a trade with the Heat from the sources that tell ESPN, but is believed to be ready for an exit. Butler, as we have previously mentioned, said has a $49 million on his contract this year and a $52 million player option in 25 to 26. They failed to reach an extension this past offseason, the Heat, and they can still sign one before June 30th if he remains on the team. Now, currently the Heat are leaning into Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Jaime Jaquez, that core. And Butler's player option for next season has given the parties their own vantage point of leverage. Teams have been informed that Butler intends to decline his player option and become a free agent. And Butler's open to a trade to the Phoenix Suns, Golden State, the Dallas Mavericks, and Houston Rockets. ESPN reports multiple teams have called the Heat to express interest in Butler in the last 2 weeks, and Miami really has not shown interest in, or even urgency in, those trade talks as they monitor the first half of the season. Now, I have said that there are slight problems with every team and every trade. With the trade for the Suns, it can only be a swap, and I think they can put in that 2031 first-round pick if they're really trying to sweeten the deal, but the Suns cannot aggregate players in a trade due to the second tax apron in the collective bargaining agreement, as they're $76 million, over $70 million of the cap. So they're just so deep in the luxury, they can only basically swap Beal for Butler. Golden State, it would have to, from my understanding, the package would have to be built around Andrew Wiggins, and Wiggins, Kuminga, and I believe Gary Payton is what could possibly be the deal, because that gets you to $40 million. I think you might have to throw in Kevon Looney, but the whole problem with the Golden State Warriors deal is, would the Warriors be cutting the depth of their team? The Dallas Mavericks, that would have to be a deal probably built around Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington, and the same thing like the Warriors. Are you cutting your depth? And finally, the Houston Rockets continue to say they're not going to make a move. So why would they package up Jayshawn, even though Jayshawn Tate is trying to be traded, and they're trying to trade Jayshawn Tate, who's on an expiring $7.75 million deal, that Jayshawn Tate, Jeff Green, who also is on an expiring $8 million deal. Jock Landale's has 2 years remaining on his contract at 8 years annually, non-guaranteed. And then Steven Adams is about $12 million expiring. So right there, that's about $32 million you have tradable on salary. And you just would have to find $16 million to fill in right there. Again, the whole problem, you're cutting a lot of players. For the Rockets, unlike the others, those players are a lot more expendable. The Heat are in the 6th place in the East. And they really could be a team that goes out, and the Heat are currently a team that has really always liked to not show too much of their hand. And to find a new home, Butler's going to obviously have to do business with the Heat, which is trying to find a deal that works for everybody involved. I personally also think that Butler, who's averaging 18.5 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists, is still a great player, and he's contributing a lot. I mean, look, this was a team that was able to go out and make deep runs with players they were able to find through the undrafted free agents. Now, obviously, you look at, and they make a great note that the Boston Celtics were able to go out and get Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, and the Heat weren't able to bring in Damian Lillard or Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving. So that maybe it is time to move on. Also, Jimmy Butler has made the playoffs 12 out of 13 seasons, 2 NBA final berths, and 3 Eastern Conference final trips. So I just think it's a really good relationship, and that's why I'm hesitant to say that it would end. I don't think there's a good enough deal for this to play out right now. And to be honest, for both parties involved, their best situation would be to let this play out and simply go into the offseason having Jimmy Butler change his mind and pick up that $52 million deal. Because an extension of about $110 million is possible. I think that's the max. I don't think anyone's going to give them that in free agency. So that's where the whole thing becomes problematic. And that's where I disagree with Sean Charania's report that Jimmy Butler wants out. But we shall see. I think it's dumb. And I don't know. The only deal that works out is that it's going look, the only deal that works out, we said, is the Suns, because you could possibly get the 2031 pick. That I think is their only tradable first round pick. Unprotected. And Beal is someone the Heat like. And you're only the Suns aren't giving up too much, so I don't know. I think this is why all the other trades, the Rockets, the Mavs, the Warriors, don't make sense. Maybe a Nuggets trade, but I just don't see that happen. I just think the best thing would be, if it's not a trade for Beal at this point, if you can get an unprotected first, I would just play this out.